Welcome back to Property Play. I'm your host, Elena Saradidis, and today I have my good friend with me, Arif Nasser.
Welcome,
Did I say that right?
You did almost. I mean, Nasser, but Nasser. Yeah.
Oh my God. And I practiced this before we started.
Of course, and I'm her girlfriend.
Arif is one of my good friends. He works with me here at this office, and he is fantastic. I brought him on because he just sold his own home.
Well, I mean, I didn't sell it. I hired a really, really great agent to sell it for me. And we'll talk about that because it's kind of scary selling your own place, but there's a lot of other processes that are involved where I didn't want to be too emotionally attached when dealing with that process. So we'll get into that later, but yeah.
Okay, so maybe we title this, Why Real Estate Agents Choose Other Real Estate Agents to Sell Their Home.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that.
Okay, why don't we start with why did you choose to sell your property now?
Okay, so I mean, I've had that question quite a bit considering where the condo market is in Toronto. If we look at it, 9 months of inventory in the core. So there's excess supply, buyers have choice, and that gives the buyers an opportunity to kind of negotiate that price down heavily in certain regards, depending on how many days they're on the market. Albeit there are properties in today's condo market that if they are presented well and they're not your standard cookie cutter condo units, they will sell. And that's what we've seen in the market, that they are moving. So I felt fairly confident, and part and parcel thanks to my wife who helped design the place, and my sister who is also a big interior designer who helped stage it and design it and all that kind of stuff. So I knew I had the right aesthetic and appeal to kind of attract the masses. So really want to take a shot. But the main reason for selling wasn't just because I wanted to see where the market would take me and all that kind of stuff. It was more of the family is growing. I need more space now. And it's time for me to be able to enjoy a backyard with my kid and, play and do all that stuff. And I just didn't have that ability in the condo. So primarily larger family, more space needed. And at the end of the day, my wife also works in Mississauga and in the Peel region as a teacher. So for her sense of her quality of life, I wanted to move down there just so it's easier for her. I don't care where I live. As long as I can drive to Toronto and get listings and clients and things like that. That doesn't matter where I live.
Well, I think we should touch on a key factor. People choose to move right now or sell their properties right now still, and it's because usually lifestyle.
Yes.
That's usually the driving force in real estate at any point in time. So whenever anyone was asking me, even when the interest rates were going bananas, even when the threat of tariffs were coming in, are people still selling? And the answer was, yes, they are selling. And the reason they're selling is because lifestyle.
Yes.
People still need to move. There's different factors that come into people's lives. They have babies, they downsize, or smart size is a term that I've learned recently.
I like that.
They smart size. There's reasons for wanting to move. And that's what drives the real estate market. There's still people that need to move.
I 100% agree with that.
Do you want to kind of talk me through the listing process? You chose not to use yourself.
Yes, I chose not to use myself because I bought this condo pre-construction. So back in 2009, lived in it on and off for, I think I lived in it in total, maybe around, since it was registered in 2012, probably 7 years. So rented it out for a good 8 years as I traveled, did all that stuff. And it's my baby, if you put it in that, it's my baby. It was my first home. It was everything to me. And just to sell it, I'm a very analytical person as well. So when I deal with my own clients, I'm very okay, no, this one sold for this. This is this number. This is where our maximum should be. With my own condo, there is no analytics. It's this is the price I hope to get. This is what I'll tell an agent. And it's just it's not practical. So I was scared that I would throw a lot of agents off based on my reception or my perception of what my own place could be, and not so much looking at the market itself.
And just so everyone hears, everyone does this.
Yeah.
Every real estate agent thinks they can sell their own home because we have it in our mind. We do it for a living. Why wouldn't it be a problem? We're not going to be as emotional as most of our clients get during the buying process. No. We become unrealistic, and we're probably the worst sellers.
Yeah.
A real estate agent selling their is probably the worst seller, because the moment you call and you're okay, what's the motivation? Why do you want to sell? Would you consider this price? Am I allowed to say fuck off? Apparently we're saying it now. But basically someone is going to tell you to completely forget about it and not take this offer and like don't even bother bringing it to me. But there's a deal to be made in every situation.
Exactly.
And if it was one of your clients, you'd be like, let's sign it back. Let's figure out how to get this deal to a number that makes sense. Let's work it until we see it make sense.
Right.
But when it's yourself, there's no one buffering you. There's no one shielding you from the actual like the buyer's agent to be like, okay, let me see what he says. He might say like, this is completely outrageous, but at least like there's a buffer in between where no one thinks that everyone's like in their emotions and we can kind of get this deal done.
And that was truly helpful because actually we ended up doing an offer date for the condo. And it's because I told her the only objective I have is to sell above ask. So she listed it low to make sure that we can sell above ask.
By the way, spoiler alert, I was his agent.
Yeah, she was my agent, and she did sell it for 115% of the asking price, which is fantastic. But yeah, it's just, I completely agree. And going through that process, especially on offer night, and when you called me, you're like, hey, we have two offers. This is the situation. And I was a little bit nervous because, I mean, the offers weren't at the price that I actually wanted yet. And had it been me on the call talking to those agents, I'm sure the conversation would have gone a little bit more differently than you speaking to them on my behalf. So it was like a weight off my body hiring another agent to sell my property. And I highly recommend it because you can say you're not emotional, you can say you're not that, but when it comes down to it, you are going to be emotional about your own home. So that is the reason why I chose to use Elena to sell my place.
Yeah. And we also, we had a bottom line.
Yes,
we also discussed that.
Yeah.
And like during the offer night process, I was like, look, if we don't hit it, then there's no hard feelings. We'll relist. You know the process.
At the end of the day, it was 6 days. So we have time.
Yeah. We were 6 days on the market, 12 showings total.
Yep.
In a depressed condo market, 2 offers on offer night, and we sold for, I would say, a fair price.
Yep. And a firm deal.
Yeah. Firm deal.
Yeah.
Which in this market, firm, with the check in hand.
Yeah. With the check in hand, not even conditional on the status certificate. So
No.
I mean, it's a very well-run building. Here's the bias and emotional part of me talking now. But again, I mean, those were all positives. And having her work with me as a listing agent, I mean, definitely reaped rewards.
Yeah, I also just said, like, I'll be the buffer in between. Like, don't worry.
Yeah.
Like, you just tell me what you need me to do and I'll just handle the calls. So you don't have to, like, I'll be the middle guy. I'll be fine.
Yeah. So, no, super happy how everything went and truly grateful and just happy to move on to the next step and finally find our kind of family home.
Why don't we talk about positioning your property before you go to market? So people that are thinking about potentially selling their property, they kind of get an idea of like what happened and what the process was like and what you needed to do to get it ready for market.
Right. Okay. So I do have a toddler at home. So, I mean, you have bullpen balls flying everywhere in the house. You have little figurines everywhere. It's when you have a toddler, your house is not messy or dirty. It's just very unorganized. You have things everywhere. So the first step was to actually, luckily like I said, my wife's a teacher in the Peel region. So she moved to her parents' house with my son, Ari, as we got maybe a couple weeks before we were ready to list. But during that period, we hired stagers to come in and do a consult, but also they decluttered the place. So decluttering the place is probably the number one thing you should start with when prepping your property, because this gets rid of all the junk and the useless things that you don't need because you accumulate so much. And especially over a period since 2012, I mean, there's a lot of things that you would collect and a lot of things that you don't need. I'm actually dealing with a client right now and we're prepping her place for June, but I've told her to start now. And here she was, she called me, she's like, Arif, I found paperwork from 2007 in my place that I would have never found if you didn't tell me to start this process. I'm like, but this is how you accumulate junk. And this is the first step in prepping any listing is to declutter, pack. And if you don't have the space at home, rent a storage unit for a couple $100 a month and store everything there. From there, the house is a little bit more presentable and clean and decluttered, and then you can start with any handyman work, which we did. I made sure that the caulking was done. I made sure that I kind of touched up my walls that were lime washed, so you need a special kind of paint and paintbrush to do all that stuff. But all that handyman, those small items can be done, the painting can be done, and from there, the stager will come in and then stage the place and you're ready for photos. But that's typically what the process looks like. But the main thing and the most overwhelming thing that we've seen for sellers is that decluttering part. You know,
and like a little like tip of the trade, Some storage facilities will give you the first month free.
Yes.
Just saying.
Just saying. And there are some that will actually, instead of the first month free, there are some that can give you 6 months at 50%.
Yeah.
Which kind of works out better. So that's exactly what I did. Now I'm past that 6 month mark, but I mean, it's still okay.
Yeah. But it again, and you said something very specific. Like, you guys were still living there. Yes, your wife moved out during the showing process. That way it could be a little easier because you have the toddler, but you still staged the property.
Yes.
Can I ask, why did you choose to stage?
Because you can have a property with nice furniture and all that. That's like 90% of the property and what the makeup is, but that last 5 or 10% that comes into the property from staging, that's where that appeal comes in. That's where that attraction comes in from those buyers, and those small little details in terms of like an accessory here or a different color pillow there. It just adds to the spark, the pictures, and the actual presentation of the unit. So I would say staging is hugely important, even if you're just doing an accessory stage. Adding a plant here, or adding a book or a coffee machine here, like those small things make a massive difference when selling a property. And that's why, even though we do have fairly nice things in our place, we just still decided to stage as a result, because we knew that extra 5 to 10% means so much in a buyer, especially in a buyer's market, especially in this market, because like we mentioned before, there are 9 months of inventory in the Toronto market. How do you become part of that 20 or 25% of condos that are selling every month? How do you get a buyer to make sure that you're part of that 20 to 25%? And I think staging brings you up to that level. It also has to do with the marketing and the presentation and the videography. And I mean, all that was great. So, but that's all a given, right? But definitely that staging.
Yeah. It's the way you live is not always the way you sell.
Yes.
And that's like the rule of thumb when it comes to putting up properties. People live amazingly. And sometimes I've walked in and been like, this is the most amazing house ever. All your stuff is amazing, but we do need to remove some stuff to neutralize it.
Yes.
Or we need to add some stuff because in the photos, it will give it a wow.
Yeah.
Like, there are things that you can do to the property that will make it look even better on photos. And let's be real. People look on photos or look online before they actually go in person.
100%.
And if they don't like the photos, like, how many times have you had a client be like, I don't know about that place. It doesn't look too good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you go in person and they're like, it doesn't look like the photos. This is better.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the opposite where photos look so good, but in real life,
catfish. Catfish.
A bunch of catfish.
You can be catfished in real estate.
You definitely can.
100%. I actually showed a property, I think last week.
Okay.
And I walked in with my buyers and I'm like, guys, I'm so sorry. And they're like, why? And I'm like, this is not what it looked like. I promise you it's not. Like, I did not plan to take you here. I don't even know what this is. And I showed them my phone. Like, I was like, this is what the listing looks like online. And they were like, you were catfished. Yeah. And I'm like, we were catfished.
Perfect term
we
for
all
it.
just walked into this place and we're like, it's incredible what furniture or virtual staging can do.
Oh, it's funny when you brought up that story, because I was showing a client, I was working with clients. I just sold their home in Cambridge, and then we were looking for another house in Cambridge. Pictures look beautiful. I literally walked in front of, my client stayed in the car because he was on a phone call. So I walked in front of it. I walked, got the key, opened the front door, literally walked into the foyer, closed the door behind me, locked up, put the key in the lockbox, and went back to his car and said, we're not going into this house, because it felt like a dead zone. Like, just, it was so creepy. It was dark. It just had a musky smell to it. And we're just like, this is why you can be catfished so many times, because pictures are very deceiving a lot of the time.
Yeah, and in a market like this where there is so much backup inventory, and people are racking up days on the market, like, the media does not help. It keeps saying the sky's falling and nothing's selling. It's not true. The good stuff is selling, but they have to be presented exceptionally well. So yes, all the lights are in the property before you walk in. It's a rule. The lights have to be on, so no one feels like it's creepy when you walk in and can't find a light switch, because it is frustrating. And if you're a seller, my recommendation to you is to actually go visit a couple places for sale and see which ones you resonate with more. See which ones you walk in and you're like, whoa, this is an amazing property. And see the difference between the ones you think are amazing and the ones you think are okay. And I guarantee you, the ones that you walked in and the lights were on outshined the ones that you had to turn on the lights.
Yes.
And it's a very small difference between one and the other. the lights on makes such a big difference. Staging makes such a big difference. And it's not a market where you should cut corners. It's a market where you need to do everything because you want to sell.
Yeah, and don't worry about those utility costs because they're very minimal at the end of the day. Even for my condo, I just looked at the showing schedule and I just kept the lights on. Didn't even bother, right? Because Elena's right. That as soon as you walk in and you feel that warmth, and that warmth is provided by those lights, by looking at the entire place itself, it makes such a big difference in the buyer's perception of a property than having all the lights off and them kind of figuring out what's next.
Also, your place is a vibe.
Oh, thank you.
It's a vibe.
Yeah, no, it is a vibe.
I walked in and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But you have a, reaction when you see it all in its full
entirety.
effect.
Yep.
Yeah. So you need the lights on. You need to walk through. You need to see the lime wash. You need to see the pretty, you need it. And you walk in and you're just like, where did I just enter?
Yep.
As opposed to you walk in and you're like, where's the light? And then the wow factor that would have been the first moment they open up the door is where's the light, instead of, oh my God, where did we just walk into?
Yes.
And then just keep adding on to the excitement and the how amazing is all this as you walk through the home, because you're not looking for anything. You're just imagining living there.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a great point. You're imagining yourself living there. So you also mentioned what else did you do? And you brought up depersonalizing the space as well, which is hugely important for a seller, because you don't want a buyer to walk into your home and see your family photos, because they really can't then at that point envision themselves in this space when they see another family living there. It's something psychological. It does happen. So that's a huge talking point as well, to depersonalize the home and make sure, like you said before, it's very neutral.
I actually, and I'm going to switch gears a little bit,
Yep.
but I actually walked into a home once upon a time. And the moment I walked in, I could tell that these guys outgrew the space. And they had one kid and they were ready to have the second. I could tell that from the showing.
And in what sense?
That there were the way that they set up the nursery, there was a pregnancy pillow in the closet.
Yeah.
People check the storage space, guys. This is a thing.
Organize your closets.
No, organize your closets. And honestly, it was a tell-all. Because the moment I saw it, the moment I saw the room sizes, the moment I put all the pieces of the puzzle together, my clients didn't figure this out yet. And I usually make it a point, we don't talk about the listing inside the listing.
Right.
Because you don't know when there's cameras, you don't know who's listening, you don't know anything. Walk out of the house and we'll talk about it outside. We came out of the house and my clients go, guys, this place is amazing, blah, blah, blah. They already had one kid and they were going to start trying for a second.
Right.
This was the conversation we were having. We're inside the car and I'm like, I'm telling you, there's 100% likelihood that these guys have a second, they've outgrown this space, and now they need to move. And you guys are gonna be in the same position the moment you have the second kid. I don't want you to move in 2 years. I want you to move in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9
right.
or 10 or be there. If you're gonna move in 2 years, the only person you're benefiting is me.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you bought a house that you're gonna outgrow. You're gonna call me back to sell your house and buy another. In a very short period of time, as opposed to buying a house that actually fits your criteria and fits your needs. You want to grow your family. That's
exactly.
what you told me.
Yep.
So we need to buy a house that makes sense for that. Long and behold, the car pulls up. They hop out of the car. The wife is pregnant. They are expecting the second. There's a dog that's coming out of there too. And they have a little toddler. And I'm like, they're moving. They're moving because they found this space is too tight. How are you going to find this space not as tight?
Right.
And they decluttered, you can tell, you do it on purpose. You want people to feel like there's more storage than there actually is. So you take stuff out of your closets.
Yep.
Again, the way you sell is not the way you live. And I have to keep reminding people that, because the amount of times I've walked into people's homes being like, I'm so sorry, but we're taking everything out. And your stuff is great, but we need to neutralize.
Yes.
Or we need to bring more compact things in here so it looks bigger. Or we need to empty out your closets because they look too stuffed. And if they look too stuffed, people are going to think that there's no closet space.
Not enough storage. And that's hugely important.
Because everyone looks at it.
Yep.
That was even commentary that I had with you too.
Yeah, exactly. And I
we're
built extra closet space, but it was still not enough.
No, but even when we walked through, there was a section in the bathroom and we're like, we need to figure out how to close it.
Right.
So it looks like there's even more closet space. It's being creative before you go to sell. So you eliminate a lot of the objections.
Exactly.
If someone, and you were there for a showing, I was there.
Yeah.
I told him to stay. I was like, it's my client. She's chill. You can be here for it, which is not typically what would happen in a showing.
The seller should never be involved
in the sale.
Never.
But I'm like, Arif's my buddy. He's not going to mention anything. This is my client. She's chill. She's going to tell you her cards anyway. This is the way she is. But she walked in and the first thing she was like is closets. And I was like, I knew you were going to say this, and look at all these great closets though.
Yeah.
And I literally brought her back to go look at all the other closets. And that's what a good agent does. You're supposed to show, actually, there is space. You just can't visualize, it yet.
Yep.
Exactly. But you need the bones to be able to show them it.
Exactly. And you need, and that's the main thing. So in terms of selling in this market, all those points, you need bones, but you also need to make sure that you follow the advice of your agent in terms of decluttering and starting that whole process in order to get it for sale, because it's hugely important. And most sellers out now, like most sellers in today's market, what are they looking for? Realistically, what prices are they looking at right now? Like from
what are sellers looking for?
Yeah, what are the sellers looking for?
Okay. The reality is this, 2021 was a great year.
Yep.
A great year. Do not expect your home to sell for 2021 prices.
No.
That's the best piece of advice I could give you. We're probably at the prices that it was pre-2021. Like before the market went crazy.
Yes.
That's probably what we've returned to.
Yeah, because I think in total the prices decreased from that hot point in 2021, early 2022, by around 14 to 16%. Yeah. Right? And over the last years, we've seen that stability. But again, interest rates coming down, there's still that. So a lot of buyers are more informed now. And they're waiting. They're not rushing to make a decision, and that's partly due to the fact that there's a lot of inventory on the market as well, right?
And if you're a seller, the thing to remember too is, yes, you might be selling at less than you would have gotten at the peak, but you're also buying for less.
And it's all relative.
And if you're upsizing, what a great market to be in.
Yes.
Like, yes, you're selling for less, but you are buying for also less, and the delta on that buy should be more than enough to cover the delta on the other one.
100%. Yep.
Once again, it's Elena Saradidis, and today I had Arif with me. We talked all things about selling your own property in today's slower real estate market.
It's a pleasure.
If you like content like this, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe.